Before the foundations of the earth were set, before the oceans gathered into their beds, before the winds first stirred across the void, there was the realm eternal, where the throne of the Almighty rose above all creation. His glory filled the expanse without limit. His light knew no shadow, his word no boundary. Around his throne shone a sea of glass, mingled with fire, clear as crystal, yet deep as the unfathomable mind of God. The seraphim flew in circles unbroken, six-winged beings whose faces none could behold, crying without ceasing, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come." And it came to pass in the eternal counsel of the Most High that he purposed to bring forth one among his heavenly host who would be adorned with surpassing beauty, perfect in wisdom, radiant in glory, anointed for a work unlike any other. From the depths of his will came forth light that was not born of any star, a fire that gave warmth without consuming, colors richer than the mind could name. He gathered this light into form, shaping wings like outstretched dawn, limbs strong and graceful, a face fair beyond all others. Precious stones adorned his being, sardius and topaz, diamond and beryl, onyx and jasper, sapphire, emerald, and carbuncle, each set in gold wrought by the breath of God. The Almighty breathed into him the breath of life, and the spirit within him awoke. His eyes opened to behold the throne, and from his lips came a song, unlearned yet perfect, for it was written in him from the moment of his making. His voice was like many instruments in one, the deep tone of the harp, the bright call of the trumpet, the soft murmur of the flute, the ringing clarity of bells. At his song, the light about the throne seemed to glow yet brighter, and the host of heaven turned their gaze upon him. The Lord said, "You are the anointed cherub that covers. I have set you upon my holy mountain. You shall walk in the midst of the stones of fire. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created." And all heaven beheld him in awe. Michael, captain of the armies of heaven, bowed his head before the new prince. Gabriel, keeper of mysteries, folded his wings in silent honor. The countless angels, ordered in ranks like shining rivers, looked upon their new brother with wonder. The Almighty proclaimed, "Behold Hallel, son of the dawn. To him I have given beauty for glory, wisdom for guidance, and music for the praise of my name. Let him lead the choirs in worship. Let him stand before me as a guardian of the holy." Thus was Lucifer established in the courts of heaven. Morning by morning, though there was no night, he stood before the throne, awaiting the will of the Most High. His wings shone like 1,000 sunrises. His garments gleamed with living jewels. Wherever he walked, the air was filled with the scent of the heavenly Eden, and the host would rise to their feet in reverence. He led the worship of the Almighty, lifting his voice first so that the choirs might follow. At his word, 10,000 times 10,000 voices would join in harmony, and the sound was like a mighty ocean rushing toward the shore. Beyond the holy mountain lay the garden of God, a paradise of light. Rivers glowed with colors never seen by mortal eyes. Trees bore fruit like crystal orbs filled with living flame. Flowers swayed without wind, their scent sweet beyond compare. There were creatures of brightness, some winged, some shaped like the winds, some clothed in song. All of them knew the anointed cherub, for his radiance marked him as one chosen. He would walk there in the stillness, his thoughts lifted always to the one who made him. The stones of fire were his dwelling place, for in their midst he felt the warmth of the Almighty most near. There the wisdom of God flowed into him as rivers into the sea. He walked in those days without fault. His heart was pure before the Lord, his praise unceasing, his service perfect. He had no thought of self apart from the glory of him who created him. When Michael came from the borders of heaven, sword at his side, they spoke as brothers. "You guard the holy places," Lucifer said. "I guard the holy praise." And Michael replied, "Strength and song together make the courts unshaken." When Gabriel came from the storehouses of mysteries, he would bring words of the Almighty, and Lucifer would answer, "The wisdom of God is a song to the soul." Thus passed ages in the measureless time of heaven, and the name of Lucifer was honored among the host. No shadow of discontent touched him. No whisper of pride found root in his heart. He was the morning star, the bearer of light, the leader of praise, the guardian of beauty, the perfect reflection of the glory of God. The Almighty looked upon him. As ages passed in the unbroken measure of heaven, the morning star walked daily before the throne, his wings spread wide, shimmering with a light that no eye could measure. He led the choirs of angels in harmonies that wove together the fullness of God's glory. Each note he uttered carried power. Each gesture of his hand shaped the song of creation. The lesser angels followed him with perfect obedience, for his presence radiated authority without harshness, command without coercion. To see him was to know awe, and to hear him was to feel the breath of the Almighty moving through the soul. In the courts of heaven, he moved among the seraphim and cherubim with quiet dignity. Michael, ever vigilant, would pass near with sword in hand, yet bowed before him, not in fear but in honor. "Strength is given to me," Michael said, "but beauty and voice are given to you. Together we uphold the glory of the Most High." And Lucifer answered, "Your sword guards the borders of holiness. My song guards the heart of the host. We are as one in service, though our stations differ." Gabriel, keeper of mysteries, would sometimes speak, revealing visions of the Almighty's plan. "Wisdom flows where the stones of fire meet the heavens. Guard it, morning star, for knowledge is a flame that can both illuminate and burn." Lucifer bowed and listened, storing each word in the chambers of his understanding. He walked often to the lower heavens, where stars clustered like seeds sown in an infinite field. Here he observed the activity of other angels, some tending the light of distant realms, others carrying the decrees of God. Wherever he went, the light that clung to him softened their labor, and their voices rose in harmony when he approached. He marveled at the expanse and the order, yet in his heart he cherished the holy mountain most, for there the stones of fire sang their silent lessons to him, and he could meditate on the secrets of eternity. The Almighty delighted in his servant. "He is perfect in all his ways," said the Lord. "He will shine as a light for all the host, and in his stewardship the harmony of heaven shall never fail." And indeed, for countless eons, Lucifer's perfection endured. His mind, bright and keen, understood the mysteries imparted by Gabriel. His heart, steadfast and loyal, knew no wavering. His voice, clear and strong, guided the choirs with a majesty unmatched. The angels sang with joy, and the heavens themselves seemed to swell with gladness. Yet even in perfection, the seed of thought began to stir. It was not yet sin, for he still honored the Most High, but a shadow of curiosity fell upon him. As he led the choirs, he noticed how the voices of the angels lifted in reverence toward him, how their gazes often lingered upon his beauty. He told himself it was fitting that honor and glory should reflect the light of the Almighty through his anointed. Still, the thought persisted. If honor could flow through him, could it not also flow to him alone? He began to ponder the nature of power. In the stillness of the holy mountain, he reflected upon the breadth of his own brightness, the excellence of his mind, the strength of his being. He remembered the words of Gabriel and Michael and considered them carefully. "Wisdom is a flame that can illuminate and burn," he thought. "I hold this flame. I guard it. But could I not use it more fully?" And the question lingered, though he dismissed it as mere idle reflection. Over the eons, he began to speak subtly to other angels, not in defiance type, but in contemplation. "Have you not wondered," he would say softly, "at the greatness given to each of us? We are made in the image of the Almighty, yet we serve. Is it not fitting that we understand our own worth? Is it not right that we acknowledge the brilliance within us, that we lift our voices not only in obedience but in awareness of our own light?" The angels listened, for he spoke with gentle authority, and in his words they felt not rebellion but revelation. Some began to follow his example, though unknowingly. They lifted their heads with greater pride in their service, seeking not only to honor God, but to honor the gifts they themselves bore. A third of the host were drawn to his radiance, admiring not only the morning star, but the vision he painted of a heaven in which the worth of each could shine fully. He spoke often in parables and hymns, weaving lessons that celebrated the beauty and power of the created, yet never yet denying the Lord. And still he walked before the throne daily, singing praises, guiding the choirs, guarding the harmony. His face remained as radiant as ever, his heart as steadfast as ever, yet within, the stirring of thought grew stronger. He began to compare himself to the Almighty, not in words, not yet in action, but in the quiet chambers of his mind. "I am perfect in my ways. I have walked without fault. I have served without pause. I have led the hosts. Are these not works that might merit greater honor?" Is there not room in heaven for one such as I to rise even higher? He did not speak these words aloud, for he knew the voice of rebellion was a dangerous thing. Instead, he meditated upon them, letting them grow like a sapling beneath the sunlight of his brilliance. He would study the patterns of creation, the order of the stars, the rhythm of the choirs, and marvel at his own comprehension. How vast is my understanding, he thought. How fair is my voice, how mighty my presence. Surely there is more I might do, more I might hold. The Almighty continued to delight in him, seeing only his perfection, hearing only his perfect praise. He is the crown of my creation, God said. His light is a testament to my glory, his wisdom a reflection of my mind, his voice a harbinger of my joy. And yet, even as these words echoed through the realms, the morning star began to envision possibilities beyond the throne, visions of grandeur not given, of authority not shared. He turned his gaze often to the other angels, seeing in them admiration, loyalty, and awe. This stirred something in him that was not yet defiance, but self-awareness. He noted the way some angels lingered upon his words, the way their eyes followed his movements, the way their voices responded more readily to his song than to any other. And in his heart, he felt a strange elation, a delight in the honor that flowed to him. Is this wrong? He wondered. Or is it the natural fruit of the gifts I have received? He began to test the limits of his influence, though ever subtly. He suggested harmonies that were more intricate, more brilliant, that required skill and understanding. He offered insights into the mysteries Gabriel revealed, adding layers of wisdom that had not been spoken before. The angels marveled at his counsel and followed gladly, unaware that each step deepened the bond of admiration and dependence upon him. His light became a beacon not only of God's glory, but of his own rising presence. Yet in the midst of this, he maintained perfect outward obedience. He knelt before the throne, he led the choirs, he carried the decrees of the Almighty. No word of disloyalty passed his lips. He taught, guided, sang, and protected, and all heaven continued to honor him. Even Michael, the warrior, and Gabriel, the keeper of mysteries, felt nothing amiss, seeing only the brilliance of his service. But the seed had been sown. The thought that he might rise higher, that his gifts might command greater recognition, that his wisdom and beauty could be unmatched, began to take root. In the quiet of the stones of fire, in the stillness between the songs, he contemplated the fullness of his own being. He looked upon the choirs and imagined them answering to his voice alone. He looked upon the expanse of heaven and wondered what it would be to stand above even the thrones themselves. And so passed countless ages, each day filled with praise, each night without end, each moment of perfection carrying within it the quiet stirrings of pride, the first whispers of desire, the beginnings of rebellion yet unseen. The morning star shone ever brighter, perfect in the eyes of God, yet beginning to see in himself a greatness that might transcend. As the ages of heaven unfolded without number, the morning star continued to move among the hosts, radiant as ever, guiding, teaching, and singing. Yet the quiet stirrings of thought within him grew more persistent. He began to reflect upon his place not merely as servant or guardian, but as the one through whom glory seemed to flow. When he observed the other angels, their faces turned to him in admiration, their voices following his lead. He felt a strange elation. Why should this light, he thought, which is mine by the gift of the Almighty, not shine most brightly? It was in these reflections that he began to speak more often among the angels, though carefully, with the elegance of subtle suggestion rather than command. Do we not serve with wisdom? He asked. Are we not gifted with knowledge, with beauty, with strength beyond measure? Is it not fitting to consider the fullness of our worth, to see the brilliance given to each of us? And the angels listened, for his words were sweet and compelling, his voice carrying authority without oppression. A third of the host, especially those nearest to him in rank and station, began to feel the stirrings of ambition themselves. They spoke in whispers, not of defiance, but of recognition. He is wise beyond measure, they said. He leads with skill, and the choirs follow his song. Surely his guidance is a reflection of his worth. These thoughts, nurtured by the morning star's quiet counsel, began to awaken desires that had not been present before, desires for acknowledgement, for significance, for the fullness of their own brilliance. The morning star did not yet speak of rebellion. nor did he entertain treason aloud. Yet in the recesses of his mind, the thought began to take form. He remembered the words of the Almighty. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created. Perfect. Could it be that this perfection, though bestowed by God, might be his alone to wield in fullest measure? Could the harmony of heaven not be guided by one whose vision surpassed all others, whose wisdom was without flaw, whose light shone above all? He began to teach the angels not only the songs of praise, but the ways of understanding. He showed them the patterns in the stars, the harmonies in the rivers of light, the rhythm in the choirs. And yet, in each lesson, he revealed a brilliance of his own mind, a cleverness of insight, a capacity to perceive the depths of creation beyond even what had been shown to Gabriel. The angels marveled, and some began to depend upon him not only for guidance, but for recognition of their own abilities. They looked to him as a source of wisdom and a mirror of their own aspirations. Among the elders of heaven, some noticed this change with concern. Michael, vigilant as always, observed the subtle influence growing around the morning star. He is wise, Michael said, yet there is a shadow in the way the angels lean toward him, as if their loyalty might bend not only toward God, but toward him. Gabriel, keeper of mysteries, replied, Wisdom is a flame that burns brightest when it illuminates the path of others, but fire can consume as well as warm. Yet neither spoke openly to the morning star, for outwardly he remained perfect, ever obedient, ever radiant. Within the quiet of his chambers upon the stones of fire, the morning star reflected more deeply. He saw the admiration in the eyes of those who followed him, the deference of those who listened. Is it not fitting, he thought, that one so gifted might rise above even the hosts, to hold sway not merely in guidance, but in dominion? And the thought, like a seed, began to grow. He contemplated the possibility of sovereignty, not as a servant, not as a guide, but as a ruler. He imagined the hosts of heaven answering to his voice alone, the choirs singing his praises, the stars themselves bending their courses to reflect his glory. He did not yet act openly, for he knew the danger of such desires. Instead, he cultivated the hearts of those who followed him. He whispered in subtle tones, See the greatness within yourself. Do not deny the gifts given to you. To serve is good, yet to shine is also fitting. Let your brilliance be known, that it may honor the Almighty through its fullness. The angels, hearing these words, felt no rebellion in them. They thought instead of the perfection of service and the joy of recognition. Yet each word strengthened the bond of loyalty to the morning star, and with each passing eon, more hearts inclined toward him. And still he walked before the throne daily, singing praises, guiding the choirs, guarding the harmony. His face remained as radiant as ever, his heart as steadfast as ever, yet within, the stirring of thought grew stronger. He began to compare himself to the Almighty, not in words, not yet in action, but in the quiet chambers of his mind. I am perfect in my ways. I have walked without fault. I have served without pause. I have led the hosts. Are these not works that might merit greater honor? Is there not room in heaven for one such as I to rise even higher? He did not speak these words aloud, for he knew the voice of rebellion was a dangerous thing. Instead, he meditated upon them, letting them grow like a sapling beneath the sunlight of his brilliance. He would study the patterns of creation, the order of the stars, the rhythm of the choirs, and marvel at his own comprehension. How vast is my understanding, he thought. How fair is my voice, how mighty my presence. Surely there is more I might do, more I might hold. The Almighty continued to delight in him, seeing only his perfection, hearing only his perfect praise. He is the crown of my creation, God said. His light is a testament to my glory, his wisdom a reflection of my mind, his voice a harbinger of my joy. And yet, even as these words echoed through the realms, the morning star began to envision possibilities beyond the throne, visions of grandeur not given, of authority not shared. He turned his gaze often to the other angels, seeing in them admiration, loyalty, and awe. This stirred something in him that was not yet defiance, but self-awareness. He noted the way some angels lingered upon his words, the way their eyes followed his movements, the way their voices responded more readily to his song than to any other. And in his heart, he felt a strange elation, a delight in the honor that flowed to him. Is this wrong? He wondered. Or is it the natural fruit of the gifts I have received? He He began to test the limits of his influence, though ever subtly. He suggested harmonies that were more intricate, more brilliant, that required skill and understanding. He offered insights into the mysteries Gabriel revealed, adding layers of wisdom that had not been spoken before. The angels marveled at his counsel and followed gladly, unaware that each step deepened the bond of admiration and dependence upon him. His light became a beacon not only of God's glory, but of his own rising presence. Yet in the midst of this, he maintained perfect outward obedience. He knelt before the throne, he led the choirs, he carried the decrees of the Almighty. No word of disloyalty passed his lips. He taught, guided, sang, and protected, and all heaven continued to honor him. Even Michael, the warrior, and Gabriel, the keeper of mysteries, felt nothing amiss, seeing only the brilliance of his service. But the seed had been sown. The thought that he might rise higher, that his gifts might command greater recognition, that his wisdom and beauty could be unmatched, began to take root. In the quiet of the stones of fire, in the stillness between the songs, he contemplated the fullness of his own being. He looked upon the choirs and imagined them answering to his voice alone. He looked upon the expanse of heaven and wondered what it would be to stand above even the thrones themselves. And so passed countless ages, each day filled with praise, each night without end, each moment of perfection carrying within it the quiet stirrings of pride, the first whispers of desire, the beginnings of rebellion yet unseen. The morning star shone ever brighter, perfect in the eyes of God, yet beginning to see in himself a greatness that might transcend. The morning star walked among the hosts with a brilliance that rivaled the first fires of creation. Yet the light in his mind was no longer solely for illumination. It had become a flame of desire, fierce and insistent. He pondered the gifts given to him, the perfection he bore, the wisdom he wielded, and the beauty that inspired awe in every angel who beheld him. Is it not mine, he thought, to shape the harmony of heaven not merely as servant, but as sovereign? Is it not fitting that one so perfect should command the fullness of what has been created? He began to speak more boldly among the angels, though always cloaked in the language of guidance. Consider the gifts we have been given, he said. Is it not right that those best able to understand and wield them should take precedence in the arrangement of the host? Should the strongest, the wisest, the most radiant among us not guide the fullness of creation? The angels listened, hearts stirred by admiration and the subtle thrill of ambition. Their loyalty to him deepened, yet their minds were yet unclouded by thought of open defiance. A third of the host, those closest to him in rank and devotion, felt a yearning they had never known. They began to question not the Almighty, but the structure that seemed to place them all equally, indistinguishable in authority, though unequal in brilliance. Why should our gifts be measured only in obedience, they wondered. Is it not fitting that those who shine brightest might lead, that our perfection might be recognized fully? And the morning star, hearing these unspoken desires, fed them carefully, nurturing them as one tends a delicate flame, until the thoughts were ripe for action. In the solitude of meditation upon the heights of heaven, he gazed upon the throne of the Almighty. I have served faithfully, he reflected. I have led, guided, sung, and taught. My light has adorned the host. My wisdom has directed them. Yet I am still one among many. My voice, though followed, is not final. My will, though respected, is not sovereign. Shall I remain forever in the shadow of another, when the gifts I bear surpass all others? The thought, once a whisper, became a roaring certainty. He began to speak openly of order and authority, of the need for heaven to reflect true excellence, and though he framed his words as devotion, the meaning was unmistakable. If we are made perfect, he said, should we not strive to embody that perfection fully? Should we not arrange the hosts according to ability, that all may flourish under the guidance of the most capable? Those who heard him began to understand, not merely as suggestion, but as vision, as revelation of a higher calling that seemed at once natural and inevitable. The morning star's influence grew until the third of the angels devoted to him could no longer resist the lure of the vision he offered. They came to him with hearts open, yet secretly inflamed. We follow you, they said. We have seen the wisdom in your words, the radiance of your light. Show us the way, that we may rise to the fullness of our gifts. And he answered them with a voice both gentle and compelling. To rise is not to rebel, he said. It is to fulfill the purpose written within us. The Almighty gave us gifts. Are they not meant to shine? Shall we hide the brilliance he has placed within us? The seed of rebellion, long nurtured in thought and subtle counsel, now began to bear fruit. The angels who had once admired him as guide now saw him as vision, as possibility, as the one who could lead them into the fullness of their own greatness. Their loyalty to the Almighty wavered, not with hatred, but with the belief that they sought justice, that they sought the expression of their own perfection. And the morning star, radiant and majestic, fed this belief, never naming defiance, never claiming authority beyond what he already held, yet letting the natural course of desire lead them further into allegiance to him. The time came when the morning star confronted his own certainty. I am perfect, he declared in the silence of heaven. Perfect in ways no other is, perfect in beauty, in wisdom, in strength. Shall I be content as servant when I am capable of sovereignty? Shall the light I bear be diminished to reflect only the order of another? The thought crystallized in his mind, clear and sharp, as though it were a command from the deepest place within him. And he knew that the moment of choice had come. He gathered the angels who followed him most closely and spoke with the majesty of one who commands by right of power and vision. The time has come, he said, to embrace the perfection within us. The Almighty has bestowed gifts upon us, yet we are held beneath the weight of sameness, restrained by obedience to another. Shall we not rise to claim what is ours by the very nature of our being? Shall we not take our place as we were meant to shine? The angels, moved beyond reason by the authority and brilliance of his voice, answered with unwavering devotion. We follow you, they declared. We rise with you. And in that moment, the morning star, beloved, radiant, the anointed cherub, became Lucifer, the light bearer, whose heart had turned. The music of heaven faltered for the first time, the harmony trembling beneath the weight of pride and ambition. The hosts, loyal yet unaware, sensed a disturbance, a shadow across the brilliance that had never been before. Michael and Gabriel observed from the heights, hearts troubled, seeing the gleaming host aligned under Lucifer, yet uncomprehending fully the depth of what had taken place. Lucifer looked upon the throng of angels devoted to him, and in his heart burned a fire that was neither light nor shadow, but desire made flesh. We shall ascend together, he declared. We shall claim the fullness of our gifts, the brilliance that is ours, the perfection that none can surpass but ourselves. And so the division was born, the first rebellion, not of hatred, but of pride, of ambition, of the intoxicating vision of self-exaltation. Thus the morning star, shining yet darkened in purpose, turned against the Almighty. His voice, once melody, became the call of seduction. His wisdom, once guidance, became counsel for defiance. The angels who followed him felt not evil, but the thrill of greatness, the allure of rising beyond service to mastery. And in the silence of heaven, the first fracture appeared, a subtle crack that would widen with the passing of eternity, marking the moment when perfection turned to pride, when light became the herald of rebellion, when Lucifer became the adversary. The brilliance of heaven trembled under the weight of the first descent. The angels devoted to Lucifer gathered in solemn radiance, their loyalty no longer simple obedience, but fervent devotion to one who promised them recognition, power, and the fullness of their own gifts. The harmony of the choirs faltered, the melodies of praise bending toward the majesty of the light-bearer. Yet even in the midst of growing turmoil, the Almighty's throne remained unshaken, the glory undimmed, the eternal law unbroken. Michael, ever vigilant, approached Lucifer with words of sorrow and warning. Brother, he said, why has your heart turned? You were perfect, beloved among us, a light for all creation. Why seek to rise above the one whose hand gave you life and purpose? Lucifer's face shone as it always had, yet the fire within his eyes had changed. Michael, he answered, perfection is not a gift to be hidden, but a crown to be claimed. We were made to shine fully, to rule according to our wisdom, to hold dominion over the gifts placed within us. Why should we bend in subservience when our light can guide all? The elders of heaven, Gabriel among them, sought to speak, to appeal to reason, to remind the light-bearer of his place, Surah. Yet every word only fanned the flames of pride. Lucifer's voice, powerful and persuasive, turned argument into temptation. He called upon the angels, showing them the brilliance of their own gifts, painting a vision of sovereignty and freedom from limitation. And many of the host, dazzled by his radiance, swelled with desire to follow him. The Almighty, in his unsearchable wisdom, spoke, and the words shook the foundations of all heaven. Lucifer, son of the morning, you were made perfect in your ways, yet your heart has lifted itself above me. Your vision is not mine, and your desire is to claim what is not yours. You have chosen to depart from the harmony of heaven. Go now and see what pride and ambition bring. The throne blazed with glory, and yet the command was not of wrath, but of the inevitable law of righteousness. Lucifer, unyielding, raised his voice in defiance. I will not serve alone in shadow when my light can illuminate all. I will not bow to another when my wisdom surpasses all others. I shall rise, and my glory shall be known, and those who follow me shall reign with me. The angels who had sworn allegiance to him cried out in unison, their radiance flaring like 1,000 suns, their loyalty to their leader absolute. The moment had come, the first war in heaven. The hosts clashed, not as creatures of flesh, but as spirits of fire and light, the skies of heaven itself trembling under the force of their powers. Michael led the loyal angels with strength and clarity, wielding the authority of the Almighty, his sword of fire cutting through the brilliance of rebellion. Lucifer moved with unmatched brilliance and cunning, commanding the third of the host who had forsaken the eternal harmony, their power immense, their voices raising the echo of defiance across the heavens. The battle raged for eons, though in the perspective of the eternal, the span of moments was enough to mark the rupture of order. Lucifer, radiant, brilliant, defiant, faced Michael and the loyal angels in the throne room of creation. You cannot bind me, he cried. I am the light bearer, the first among angels, the perfection given flesh. Heaven itself shall bend to the vision of my glory. Michael's voice thundered in reply. The Almighty reigns eternal. No light, however bright, may claim sovereignty apart from him. Pride is not strength. Rebellion is not power. And so the hosts were divided, the glory of heaven and the defiance of Lucifer shining side by side. The forces of order, loyal to the Almighty, pressed forward, and the forces of rebellion, loyal to Lucifer, resisted with equal might. The battle was not of hatred alone, for many angels still loved their brother, still remembered the morning star who had guided them with brilliance. Yet their love had been twisted by ambition, their hearts ensnared by pride. At last, the Almighty, in his unsearchable wisdom, decreed the final act. The rebellion, immense in brilliance but flawed in heart, could not stand before eternal righteousness. The earth of heaven quaked, the skies of light shivered, and the rebellious angels were cast down, hurled from the presence of the throne, stripped of the fullness of glory they had sought to claim. Lucifer, once the morning star, the light bearer, now fell with a terrible beauty, the brightness of pride turning to the shadow of despair. The hosts who followed him were scattered, their cries echoing in the void, the radiance dimmed, yet still burning with remembrance of the vision that had seduced them. Michael and Gabriel stood before the Almighty's throne, guardians of the order that remained. Yet even as heaven healed, the memory of the first rebellion endured, a mark upon creation that would never fade. Lucifer, cast from the heights, became Satan, adversary and accuser. His brilliance corrupted into cunning, his wisdom turned to deception, his voice now a whisper of temptation in the hearts of mortals and angels alike. Though fallen, he remembered the glory he had once borne, the admiration of those who followed, and the intoxicating vision of sovereignty that had driven him to rebellion. He roamed the void between worlds, plotting, seeking, persisting, the embodiment of pride and defiance against the Almighty. Yet the Almighty's throne remained eternal, his glory unshaken, his law immutable. The harmony of heaven, though scarred, endured, the loyal angels singing praises without ceasing, the light of Michael and Gabriel guiding the host, the memory of rebellion, a solemn warning of the perils of pride. And so the story of the morning star was complete, from perfection to pride, from guide to adversary, from radiance to ruin. Heaven stood eternal, and the fallen waited, bound by choice, by consequence, and by the justice of the Almighty, a reminder that even the brightest light may be extinguished by the shadow of ambition.